taping everybody?
Been doing a little taping and
Okay.
trying
How's
to
that
figure
going?
some stuff out. I'm learning. I'll put it to you that way. It's
Yeah.
the first time I've done anything like that, so there's a lot to learn.
No, that's good.
So you want to introduce yourself there?
Hi, I'm Simon Wow Morris. I'm 64. I've just arrived from Australia and hoping to do the Appalachian Trail. 2015, my wife and I did most of the PCT, and we kept a blog, and we're going to do a blog this time, but I'm doing it on my own. So it's the title of the blog is Wowie's Walking Monarch. My wife's trail name is Monarch. Monarch is writing. So basically I've got no editorial input whatsoever, and my good lady wife is going to write whatever she wants to, as she has done in the last entry, where she's the picture. I like doing photography. The picture she put up was one of a frog. You'd have to read the blog to find out. My ambition is to become a triple crowner in my 60s.
That's pretty impressive. So what was your experiences like on the PCT?
PCT was great. I was carrying a lot heavier sack just to cover my good lady, just in case. But I found that what I would do is ensure that she didn't carry more than about 15 kilos, which is sort of coming up about 30 pounds.
Right.
And so I'd be taking extra food on board, so yeah, that's fine. And she would go, "Oh, this sack's nice and light. I think I'll take my iPad with me." So I learning has not occurred. So it's. But I haven't done much hiking in the last 3 years.
Oh yeah.
Because when we finished the PCT, I came back. We live in Tasmania, which is it's the little island off the bottom of Australia.
Oh, cool.
And even now it's still forgotten off the maps. So,
wow.
But we did, when I came back, we went up to, I went up to far north, Western Australia, which is northwest. It's about 6 days drive.
Oh, cool.
Very much like America here. In Australia, when you go out back, the roads are so few and the distances are so long that they don't give you distances are not told in kilometres or miles. They say, oh, it's a 3-day drive north, or a 5-day drive.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That type of thing. So
I got you.
So we went up to a very picturesque part called the Kimberley, and it's beautiful. And there's a lot of, you don't go up there unless you've got a 4-wheel drive. You're either. They say that you're either a missionary, a mercenary, or a misfit if you go up there. And
that's quite a
that
quite a class,
covers,
right?
Yeah, it covers the whole. So you don't go up there unless you've got a good 4-wheel drive and you've got a good and you have a boat.
Gotcha.
So,
sounds like you don't want to get lost up there.
No. Well, it's you can get lost. People do, especially because there's a lot of deserts up there. And, so it was good stuff.
So you said you did most of the PCT, so
yeah, we got up to Timberland Lodge, and Maggie, my wife, had lost a lot of weight, and she'd just run out of steam. Essentially, it was just time to call it. And yes, I could have carried on, but we started as a team, and we were going to end as a team. So
I don't blame you there.
So life would not have been, if I had gone on and finished, fine, but
right.
I would be still suffering the consequences of it.
Yeah, I get it.
she wanted to stay. We were planning for the last 2 years. We've been planning to do it, and we've been up in the tropics there. It's very hard to get out bushwalking because it's a very harsh environment. So it's similar to the Mojave Desert, I suppose.
Oh wow!
But it gets there's only 2 seasons there. There's the wet and the dry.
Gotcha.
And the wet is just torrential rain where everything just gets flooded. And it's one of those. If you're late for work, it is a viable excuse to say, "Oh, I couldn't move. The road was flooded," because it's so flat.
Yeah.
So what they do is they build these depressions every mile or so in the road, so that if the land does flood, it will be just that part.
I guess.
And every year you get YouTube clips of people, young impulsive fellows, pulling a trailer or pulling a boat, going through the flooded road, and they get swept away.
Oh wow.
There was one clip that actually happened in the Kimberley, and for some reason there was a guy in the boat, and he was filming him, and you could see there was a big queue of people waiting for the water. The waters come up very quickly and they go down quickly.
Okay.
So in that going down quickly, what you do is you put stones, and you can gauge how quickly the water's going down, and then it's how safe is it to cross, because in the flood season up there you can get crocodiles all over the place, or alligators. So you don't want to be playing that game. So
no, not at all.
But this guy decided, you could see it, he pulls up and he's going to go, he heads straight into the flood water. The guy's filming him in the boat that he's pulling, so the guy's towing a boat, and he's filming, and you can see he gets into the deep water, the water comes over the bonnet, and you can see his front end lifting, and then you can see as soon as that happens, then he loses power, and you just float off, and the boat, because the boat is very buoyant to lift you. But then the next thing you hear is that the guy on the back in the boat switches on the outboard of the boat, even though it's strapped to the trailer, and he just pushes the power is enough to push him through to the other side. So, crazy stuff.
Yeah.
Crazy. By all rights, he should have gone floating off down the river, but he didn't. So the guy in the back,
Right.
ingenuity born of stupidity.
That's a good way to put it. So you said they lost your pack?
They lost. Yeah, they did. They told me they'd lost my pack. Flying from Australia to here,
right?
Everybody was saying that you've got to go at LA. All Australian flights come into LA, and they said that you've got to pick up your bag at LA, and you've got to go through customs with it.
Okay.
So that was fine. No problem with that. Get there, waiting for it to come off the carousel, nothing.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'm thinking, well, it's got everything I need. If you're on holiday and you just go to your hotel and sit there for a couple of days, it'll come. Here, because I was on such a tight time schedule, I just thought, oh, this is silly. But everybody said, no, you've got to pick it up. So I had a chat with them at LA, and they weren't interested. They just basically said the only way that you can deal with it is to go to Atlanta, which is your terminal, and put in a complaint, or put in a thing saying for lost. And I'm thinking, oh, this is really silly. But anyway, it turned out that I was just lining up for the queue to have a chat with Air America, the American Airlines people.
Right.
And suddenly my sack appears in front of me. Some guy had just got it and put it in, and he said, whose is this sack? I said, it's mine. He said, I don't know how it's got here, but it's here. So
thank goodness, right?
Yeah.
I would have panicked. I was when I did my through hike, I flew to Maine and hiked southbound back to Georgia.
Okay, yeah.
And I was that was my biggest fear, is my pack getting lost.
Yeah.
I thought so. I got one of the only direct nobody understands what you have.
No,
They
no.
don't understand that it's not. It's a huge deal. You're hiking.
Yeah.
It's not. You're like you said.
Yeah.
You're not just there for a
You know, you
nice weekend where you can
That's
go
right.
buy something and.
Yeah. Or you can go and buy a few clothes and that'll
Right.
get you through. You know, you just go, come on.
Yeah.
Anyway, it all worked out well. The major thing is you didn't freak out. One didn't freak out. You just.
Yeah.
But hopefully, what I'm hoping to do, although it's not something I've shouted about, is if the body, you know, at my age, when you're a young fella, you get on a track like this and you just get fitter and fitter and fitter, and that's fine. But when you get to sort of 60 plus, you find that you can get fitter to a certain point, then after that you deteriorate and you go downhill. So I'm hoping that the body holds together enough that if I do the AT and do it in a good enough time,
Yeah.
then I should be able to go and fly across to Portland, Oregon,
Okay.
and finish.
Oh, is that your plan?
Yeah. But that's,
So where did you come off the PCT? Because I'll be honest with you, I don't know a lot about it. I
It's,
really want to hike it.
Oh, yeah,
But
no.
I haven't taken the time to learn enough about it.
It's the well, I planned the PCT. I planned everything. We got food drops sent. You know, we spent time.
Right.
This time with the AT, because to me it's the people's track. What I've done is yesterday I put 16 days of food together and I've posted them out.
I gotcha.
And that's all the planning I've done. So I will see. You know, there's another fella coming from Australia. And he says, I'm not doing any planning, I'm just going to wing it.
Yeah, you can do that.
Yeah.
I was a
Yeah.
wing it kind of guy.
Yeah.
I got one drop. I'm out. I had an extra pair of boots I knew I was going to need.
Yeah.
And I broke in. And that was my one drop my wife sent me. But other than that, yeah, I didn't. I mean, after you really got that one stretch in Maine, the 100-mile wilderness,
Oh,
where
yeah.
you can't, and that's really you can resupply. There are people that will resupply you there, but I just carried the whole way through.
Well, I wasn't sure because you read the various apps
Right.
that you've got, and you know it's like mountain crossing.
Yep.
One says you've got a full resupply, others say you've got a limited resupply, and I'm thinking, well, it's early enough in the season.
It depends on what you want.
But yes, yeah.
I mean, I think they got a really good resupply, honestly.
Okay. But this is what I wanted to get on and just get a feel.
Yeah.
Just go, okay, this is what they call a good resupply, or no, this is what they think is a good resupply.
It depends on what you want. I mean,
Yeah.
it is limited in what they carry. They're not a grocery store,
Yeah.
but for your basic what you need to hike and eat, and the resupply for 3 days for
Yeah.
you've got what you need. I'll be honest with you, I prefer resupplying in the smaller places than I did the bigger places, like a grocery. Because if I resupplied in a grocery store, I was getting way too much crap,
Yeah.
which equals more pounds. And,
Yeah,
and you're like,
yeah.
you know. So I like to resupply in a gas station, so to speak.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
it limited. You had a limited amount, so you just got what you needed. And you got out.
Got out.
You didn't.
Yeah.
You didn't say, "Oh, I like that pack of Oreos over there." You know,
Yeah,
this, that.
this-
Next
yeah,
thing you know, you got
too much.
Yeah, way too much. So that's what I think. When you look at mountain crossing, first off, they're outfitters. So if you break something or need something that you forgot or anything, you can get it right there. And then
This is what I'm.
so
You've got
food wise,
I've got outfitters at 30 miles, and then again that's about 130 odd miles. So that is, I'm not used to that. I'm so used to, in all the hiking I've done, is, you know, you set off and that's it. You set off with what you've got and that's it. It either
gotcha.
breaks and you can't,
Yep.
you know. So
Well, that is one of the advantages of starting a northbound hike is that you do have that right there.
yeah.
And it's a huge, people, I think, just my limited experience last year around, you know, hiking, shuttling the hikers, that there's not enough northbounders that take advantage of that little shop right there. I would, if I did a northbound hike, I would carry 3 days worth of food. I'd drop my food box right there, or I would come to Fontana.
Yeah.
So that seems to be one of the spots where they drop a box or they wonder about resupply there, because you go into the Smokies.
Yeah.
And then from the Smokies, it's a 70-mile trek through the Smokies. So you can get off at Newfound Gap if the road's open and there's a lot of people. There's usually a big touristy spot up there. It's pretty easy to get into Gatlinburg, but it's a tougher ride to get out of Gatlinburg. So I think the resupply Fontana's the other one they look at. I'm lucky. My experiences in the Smokies, my wife's family's from that area. So I've always had my mother-in-law meet me at Newfound Gap. And so I've spent the night with her, and then she takes me back up to the trail. So.
Way to go.
Yeah, it's awesome. So on my through hike, she met me up there, and I had met a younger guy and his dad that were hiking. He was doing a flip-flop, and his dad had met him at Harper's Ferry and was coming down with him. And Keller and his dad caught a ride with us going back up to Newfound Gap. When he found out I was getting off, he was like, "Hey, do you think your mother-in-law wouldn't mind picking us up?" I was like, "No, we'll get you." So he was happy about that, because he had heard the same thing, trying to get a ride back. Or it can be. So that may be one of the spots you might want to, think about. I don't know. Honestly, I don't think I carried much more than 3 days after I got out of the 100-mile wilderness. I probably did when I went into some of the grocery stores and just went crazy, but it was generally about 3-4 days max. And I think that is what makes the AT easier, because you're hitting a place where you can resupply.
Yeah, there's this big debate about, which hike. And my answer to that is 2015, the best trail of Oz was the PCT. 2019, the best trail of Oz is the AT. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've got to do the AT before I can start comparing. So,
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what you say. I mean, I talked to some people that were doing their Triple Crown on my hike.
Okay.
So they kind of give me the insight. I think logistically, PCT just resupplies, and then some areas with water are really hard to
the water in the first people underestimate. They really do.
And that's I guess if you're headed northbound, that would be the desert.
That's the Mojave, and they seem to have it well. I mean, this is 4 years ago, so I'm sure they've got it a lot more polished. But you've just got to. We were never desperately short. There were people there, couples there who were doing it off. They'd arrive in camp, and it would be a dry camp, and they had about half a litre of pint between them.
Oh wow!
And you go, come on, team. So everybody would chip in a little bit of water, but it's good. It's simple.
But I bet it's beautiful out there.
Oh, stunning. It's our first night there, I've forgotten the name of the place now, but there was for us coming from Australia, there was a lot of the prisoners were out, and they were just doing some track maintenance.
Oh wow!
And so as you walk through, they had everybody, and there'd be this, you'd see them all raking, and then you'd hear this, "Hikers coming," and everybody'd stop, and they'd stare at you as you walk through, and you go, "Good day, good day, good day," and then you get these stony face, and having not had any contact, whoa.
Yeah.
And then of course on the first day, we stopped in a little valley, and it's a known campsite. And at 2 o'clock in the morning, the border security choppers with their night vision, they suddenly just appeared because everybody was asleep. 2 o'clock in the morning, this chopper came in really fast, suddenly from nowhere, fast and loud, and blasted the whole place with lights, just to see if anybody you know, if there was any illegal immigrants, then they'd have been up and run. But everybody just sat there going, what the hell is going on? You know? Yeah. And it was just a thunderous explosion.
Oh, wow.
You know?
That's crazy. That is crazy.
But the other funny thing that happened was there is one of the known stop-off places is a place called BVR, and it's just it was supposed to be beside a lake, but due to water shortages, etc., they had to come and pick you up. You'd get a boat, you'd do a boat ride, and then they'd have to transport you by car to the BVR, and that was where I'd organised for a boot drop.
Yeah,
so new boots in. There was still probably about 100 miles on the old boots.
Right.
So I just thought, oh well, you know, not to worry. So I literally put them in the dumpster. About a month or so later, when we were up at Twallaby Meadows, I'm chatting to this other thru hiker, and I look down and he's got my old boots on. And I said, hey, I know those boots. He said that they were mine. I said, I dropped them at BVR. And this guy starts haranguing me for it. These boots don't fit me. They're rubbing me heels. They've got a sore toe here. You know, there's not much sole left. I can feel the stones underneath, and I'm going, mate.
That's good.
So, you know.
Yeah, the trail provides every now and then, right?
Yeah. So,
actually, it's funny how it works like that. Whenever you need something, you kind of
just comes up, doesn't it?
Yeah, sure does.
Yes, no, it's very true. We had a stove problem. The stove just stopped working, and we couldn't work out the resupply time. The town that we were coming down to was about 30 miles away.
Okay.
And it was quite isolated. So, but we were going to have to go in. Funnily enough, there was a guy who was running with his dog, and we met him, and he stopped to have a chat with us, and you know, we were saying, you know, how's it? Oh, he said, I'll give you a lift in, you know, come and stay with us. And I'm saying, well, I said, no, thank you, you've given us a lift. I said, putting up with 3 people,
right.
You know, he was almost as though he felt obliged. And I said, no, we'll stop in a hotel. You know, we don't have to, we won't impose on you.
Right.
Getting the lift is good enough. Taking us to the outfit is fine, thank you. You know, he felt almost obliged to do it. And he thought, no, come on, mate, you've done enough. You know, it was great.
Yeah, that's a lot of what you'll find out here too.
Yeah.
You know, their way. It's funny. First hitch we got in Vermont, a lady picked 4 of us up, and it was funny. It was me and the guy I was hiking with. We were southbounders, and there was 2 younger ladies that were northbounders, and we all hit this little spot at the same time. And they're up in front of us hitching, and then I looked at the guy I was hiking with. I was like, we got no chance of getting a ride until they get their ride first.
Yeah.
And a lady pulls in, and she goes, "Oh, there's 4 of you?" And we're like, "Yes, ma'am." She was like, "Jump in. You're my first hikers all year." And I was like, "Wow, that was so cool." She goes, "I've been
very good."
And she told us she'd been up and down the road, and she was like, "Honestly, I pick hikers up every year, and for whatever reason this year I've always had to eat groceries and couldn't fit anybody in, or you know there was too many of them." So yeah, it was really cool how you know people
good.
around the trail are that way.
How many people have you run in so far?
I've taken quite a few in to the start. There's quite a few. There was over 100 last time I had heard the number. So there's 100 that had registered for their hike. So we'll find out what number you are.
Yeah, that would be good.
I talked to a guy that I keep in touch with. He's doing a southbound through hike this year.
Right.
And he was doing a training run from Unicoi up to Trey Mountain Shelter and back. And he ran into a little group of 10 northbounders. So
wow,
there's quite a few that have already started.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's surprising. That was one of the things that surprised me. There seems to be more and more people starting in February.
Yeah. Well, whether it's to miss the herd or
right.
what, I don't know. Because the trail days here is March 1, 2, isn't it? Something like this.
I think so.
Yeah.
Trail days up in Damascus.
Yeah,
Georgia.
I think he's down here.
Yeah, in Georgia they do the kickoff here about the first weekend in March at Amicalola, and then Trail Days is what, like May something up in Damascus. That's what it says.
In a season, how many people would you transport, pick up and deliver to trails?
It's so hard to say.
Is it?
Yeah, you'll March and April, you'll be, even into May and into early June, you'll be running every day, all day. It's a constant.
Yeah.
Just constantly driving. So there were times where I'd started at 5 a.m. last year and ended at 9 that night, and that was not the normal, but it was nothing to start 6 or 7 in the morning and go to 6 or 7 at night. Yeah. There's a lot of people on the trail.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was pretty interesting because you would think it'd be through hikers, but there's a lot of people that come up here and do section hikes at the same time.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot of guys and ladies that have hiked the trail or done it through hikes, so they want to come up and kind of just experience, what the 2019 class is, or
very good.
just to relive their hikes. So
Yeah.
it's really cool. Meet a lot of really interesting people.
Yeah.
That's what kind of spurred the video.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So how did you do it on your? You said you do a blog. You
Yes.
blog it out.
Trail journals.
Okay.
Trail journals. Monarch and Wow. My wife's name is Monarch. She was Queenie, but if you go to trailjournals.com,
Okay.
it's Monarch and Wow, or Monarch and Wow. If you type in Monarch and Wow, you'll either get our 2015 trail or 2019, and
Awesome.
it'll tell you how we ended up with our trail names. It's a long and boring story. If you can't sleep, that's what you need to do.
So yours is Wow, I think.
Mine is Wow. We did.
And I guess that doesn't stand for World of Warcraft, right?
No, I'm too old for World of Warcraft. No, WOW stands for Words of Wisdom.
Awesome. There you go.
Back in 2009, it's a bit of a story, but in the convict years when the UK used to send convicts out to Australia,
Okay.
they'd send a lot of them to the mainland, but some of them would also come into Tasmania. And if they were repeat offenders, the really bad convicts, they would send to the west coast of Tasmania to an island in Macquarie Harbour called Sarah Island, and these people were they were tough guys.
Gotcha.
And they used to get flogged, 50 lashes for not answering correctly. So it was a very harsh environment.
Golly.
And so they'd try and escape, but most of the people would escape to try and get to the ocean, and then some of them were sailors, so they would feel at home sailing.
Gotcha.
So they would steal boats and things like this. The only problem is that to get out of the harbour, there is a very narrow entrance, and it's called Hell's Gates.
Oh wow.
And so if people escaped, what they would do is they'd light fires, so everybody would know that there's a group of escaped convicts.
Okay.
And all the soldiers would do was sit there with their muskets ready at Hell's Gates, and as the boat would go through, they'd just shoot them, or attempt to shoot them.
Right.
So this guy called Alex Pierce, he was transported for stealing 7 pairs of shoes, which was, the theory is that if he stole 7 pairs, he must have been a serial thief rather than a thief for necessity.
Right.
So they sent him out and he'd reoffended. He'd worked on the farms, but he kept reoffending, getting drunk and things like that. So him and 7 others, this was 1822, they escaped from Sarah Island. What they did was they raided a store, and they got a ham, 10 pounds of flour and an axe. And instead of going towards the ocean, they went inland. Now, the whole point with Sarah Island is that in those days the whole terrain was considered to be a prison in itself because the terrain was just totally impenetrable.
Okay.
So, I mean, now it's seen as World Heritage, pristine, come and meditate and getting then it's not changed, it's just the attitude.
Right.
So, anyway, he escaped, and one of the leader is a guy called Greenhill, and he's a navigator, so he can navigate by the stars, but here the bush is just so dense. Anyway, it took him about 50-60 days to travel about 170 miles.
Wow.
Because the bush was, and the thing is, what happened was, it's a basic long story, but what they did was they basically killed and ate each other. So,
wow.
And that was the only way that they could survive. And it was a matter of, it's just survival of the fittest. And it was a thing that Greenhill, who was the leader, said, at sea, when you're stranded, this is what you do. You pick the weakest person and you kill them and you eat them. So, the thing is that nobody'd ever retraced his steps. So, I'd read this book, and it just to be so happened that a number of films have come out, like Van Diemen's Land and For the Term of His Natural Life, all of these type of books.
Right.
So what happened then was, so I had a chat with the Australian Geographic, the National Geographic, and I got them to sponsor us, and then I got a few gear people who were quite happy to sponsor us, and so I put a team of 6 of us together, and we were going to retrace his steps. The route isn't clearly known, but the terrain basically tells you where to go. And one of the famous rivers in Tassie is the Franklin River. It was going to be dammed and flooded, but there was such an outcry that it was left alone. And so we set off, and the place that he left from the harbour was a place called Cold Point. So we got people to drop us off by boat there, and then we set off, and the terrain was hard, and it was so dense that we'd be working for 10 hours a day, and on the hardest day we'd only do 1.5 miles. It was that dense. So, and machetes were totally useless. We did have one guy with a machete, but there is so much, the vines are so supple and so thin that it just bounced off, and the only way you could do it is just to rip it and just squash it down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, if you read the blog, either of the blogs, there's got